No one ever remembers the maid, until the day one refuses to disappear. Lily Carter stepped through the towering gates of Ethan Cole's mansion with quiet determination tucked beneath her calm expression. She had learned early in life that survival didn't require attention, it required discipline. Keep your head down. Do your work. Leave no trace. That was her rule. The mansion itself felt less like a home and more like a monument to power, polished floors, silent hallways, and staff who moved like shadows. Everyone spoke in hushed tones, careful not to disturb the man who owned it all. Ethan Cole. A name whispered with equal parts fear and respect. Lily had heard the stories. Cold, unforgiving, untouchable. But stories she believed were often exaggerated. Her first day went smoothly until it didn't. She turned a corner too quickly, arms full of freshly pressed linens, and collided straight into a solid chest. The impact sent a few sheets slipping from her grasp. I'm so sorry. The apology froze halfway out of her mouth. Standing before her was Ethan Cole himself. Tall, composed, eyes sharp enough to silence a room without effort. For a moment, neither of them moved. Lily quickly knelt to gather the fallen linens, her fingers steady despite the tension pressing against her chest. Most people would tremble under his gaze. She didn't. I'll be more careful next time, sir, she said simply, rising to her feet. Ethan didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied her, not the way a man looks at a mistake but the way one examines something unexpected. You're new, he said at last, his voice low and measured. Yes, sir. Pause. Then, surprisingly, he stepped aside. Don't let it happen again. I won't. And just like that, it was over. Or at least that's what Lily thought. Because as she walked away, she could feel it. His gaze lingering, not with irritation, but curiosity. For the first time in a long while, Ethan Cole had noticed someone. And Lily Carter had no idea what that would cost her. Power often speaks the loudest in silence, and Ethan Cole had mastered both. In the days that followed, Lily Carter kept her distance, just as she had promised herself. Her routine became precise, almost mechanical, clean, organized, disappear. Yet no matter how carefully she moved through the mansion, there was an unshakable awareness that lingered beneath her calm. She had been noticed. And in a place like this, that was never a small thing. It was during a late afternoon shift that Lily saw the side of Ethan everyone warned her about. She had just stepped into the West Wing corridor when voices echoed sharply from the study. The door wasn't fully closed. I trusted you with this, Ethan's voice cut through the air, controlled but edged with steel. I can explain, sir, a trembling male voice responded. There's nothing to explain, Ethan said flatly. You're done here. The words landed like a final verdict. Lily froze just outside the door, her breath held as the dismissed employee hurried out moments later, his face pale, his hands shaking. He didn't even notice her as he passed. So the rumors were true. Ethan Cole was ruthless. Lily lowered her gaze and continued on, reminding herself not to get involved, not to feel anything beyond what was necessary. But that night, something shifted. As she made her final rounds, she noticed a faint light still glowing in the staff quarters, an unusual sight at that hour. Curious, she slowed her steps. Through the slightly open door, she saw Ethan. Not the commanding billionaire from earlier, but a man standing quietly beside the same employee he had fired. A small envelope was placed into the man's hands. This will cover your daughter's treatment, Ethan said, his voice softer now, almost unrecognizable. Make sure she gets the care she needs. The man's eyes filled with tears. Thank you, sir. I didn't expect. You shouldn't have lied, Ethan interrupted gently. But that doesn't mean she should suffer for it. Lily stepped back quickly, her heart caught somewhere between confusion and realization. He wasn't what he seemed. Not entirely. As she walked away, one thought lingered in her mind, steady and undeniable. Ethan Cole wasn't just hiding from the world. He was hiding from being seen. Some moments don't ask for permission before they change everything. They simply happen and nothing feels the same again. The rain had started just after sunset, tapping softly against the tall windows of the mansion. By the time night settled in, the sky had opened completely, wrapping the estate in a quiet, steady storm. Lily Carter moved carefully across the marble hallway, a cloth in hand as she wiped away faint traces of water tracked in by earlier guests. Most of the staff had retired for the evening, leaving the mansion unusually still. She liked it this way. Peaceful. Predictable. Safe. But safety has a way of slipping when you least expect it. As she turned near the grand staircase, her foot met a patch of water she hadn't seen. The world tilted in an instant, her balance gone, her body falling before she could react. She didn't even have time to gasp. A firm hand caught her. Strong. Steady. Certain. Lily's eyes widened as she realized she hadn't hit the floor. Instead, she was held, securely, effortlessly, against someone solid. Ethan Cole. For a brief second, the world seemed to pause. The rain outside faded into the background. The silence between them grew louder than any sound. His hand remained at her waist, holding her upright. Hers instinctively rested against his chest, feeling the slow, steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath his shirt. "You should be more careful," he said quietly. But there was no sharpness in his voice this time. Only something softer, almost concerned. I didn't see the water," Lily replied, her voice calmer than she felt. Neither of them moved. Neither of them stepped away. It was a simple moment, nothing more than a fall prevented. Yet something unspoken passed between them, something neither fully understood but both clearly felt. Ethan was the first to let go, slowly, reluctantly. "You're not hurt?" he asked. "No." Pause. "Good." He turned to leave, his expression unreadable as always. But that night, long after the rain had stopped and the mansion returned to silence, one truth remained. Ethan Cole couldn't stop thinking about the girl who didn't fall. And Lily Carter couldn't forget the way he caught her. There are places meant to remain untouched, rooms that exist not for others, but for the quiet solitude of one person alone. In Ethan Cole's mansion, the library was one of those places. No staff entered without permission. No one lingered there. It was the only space that felt less like a display of wealth and more like a reflection of the man himself, orderly, silent, and guarded. Which was exactly why Lily Carter hesitated at the door. She hadn't meant to step inside. But the soft glow of a forgotten lamp and the sight of a book left open on the table had pulled her in. Just for a moment, she told herself. Just to tidy up. Yet moments have a way of stretching. Soon, she found herself seated by the window, the book gently held in her hands. It wasn't the kind of book she expected Ethan to read, thoughtful, reflective, filled with quiet ideas about life and choices. It made her wonder. So lost in thought, she didn't hear the door open. "You're in the wrong room." The voice was calm but unmistakable. Lily's heart skipped as she looked up to find Ethan standing there, watching her. She rose immediately. "I'm sorry, sir. I was just about to." "Sit." The word surprised her. She blinked. "Sir?" "I said sit," he repeated, stepping further into the room. "If you were going to leave, you would have already." Caught between confusion and curiosity, Lily slowly sat back down, placing the book carefully on the table. Ethan walked closer, his gaze shifting briefly to the open page. "You read?" he asked. "Yes." "What do you think of it?" The question felt unexpected. Lily hesitated, unsure if honesty was a risk. But something in his expression, something quieter than authority, made her answer. "It's honest," she said softly. "It doesn't try to impress. It just tells the truth." Ethan studied her for a moment, then nodded slightly. "Most people avoid truth," he said. "It's uncomfortable." "Maybe," Lily replied. "Or maybe they've just never had someone listen." The words lingered in the air. And then something rare happened. Ethan smiled. It wasn't wide. It wasn't obvious. But it was real. For the first time in years, the silence in that room didn't feel empty. It felt shared. Not every whisper is what it seems. Some carry meanings the heart understands long before the mind does. The night had been heavier than usual. A private dinner had been hosted in the mansion, filled with wealthy guests whose laughter felt too loud and whose words often carried quiet cruelty. Lily Carter had done her job as expected, moving silently, serving carefully, remaining invisible. Until she wasn't. It happened quickly. A guest, irritated over something trivial, turned his frustration toward her. His words were sharp, dismissive, cutting deeper than they should have. "People like you should learn to stay out of sight," he muttered, loud enough for others to hear. Lily lowered her gaze, her hands tightening slightly around the tray she held. She had endured worse before. She could endure this too. But something inside her shifted. And for the first time since arriving at the mansion, she thought about leaving. By the time the guests had gone and the silence returned, Lily had made her decision. She moved quickly through the hallways, her steps steady despite the weight pressing against her chest. She just needed to leave before she changed her mind. "Where are you going?" Ethan's voice stopped her just as she reached the entrance. She turned slowly. I think it's best if I go, sir." His eyes narrowed slightly. "Because of what happened tonight? It's not my place to stay where I'm not respected." For a moment Ethan said nothing. Then he stepped closer. "Don't move." His voice was softer now but firm. Lily froze, her breath catching as he reached out, his hand gently wrapping around her wrist, not to restrain but to keep her from walking away. "I need to make love to you," he whispered. The words hung in the air, unexpected and confusing. Lily's eyes widened, But before she could react, Ethan pulled her closer. Not into anything improper, but into a quiet, steady embrace. A hug. Warm. Protective. Real. I don't mean what you think, he murmured near her ear. I need to remind you that you matter. That you're not invisible here. Lily's tension slowly eased, her hands hesitating before gently resting against him. The world outside that moment didn't exist. No titles. No distance. No expectations. Just two people, holding on. And for the first time, Lily didn't feel small. She felt seen. After that night, silence no longer meant distance. It meant understanding. Something had changed between Ethan Cole and Lily Carter, though neither of them spoke about it directly. There were no grand declarations, no dramatic shifts. Just small, quiet moments that slowly began to fill the spaces where emptiness once lived. Lily noticed it first in the mornings. Ethan, who once barely acknowledged anyone, now lingered just a little longer when passing through the kitchen. At first it was nothing more than a nod. Then a simple, good morning. And eventually, he stayed. Do you always wake up this early? He asked one morning, watching as she prepared tea. It helps me think, Lily replied, handing him a cup without hesitation. He accepted it, his fingers brushing hers briefly, not by accident but not entirely intentional either. I don't think, he said after a pause. Not like that. Lily glanced at him. Everyone thinks. Some people just avoid what they might find. Ethan didn't respond immediately. But he didn't walk away either. The evenings became their own quiet ritual. Sometimes it was the library, two people sitting in comfortable silence, pages turning, words unspoken yet understood. Other times, it was a brief conversation in the hallway that stretched longer than either expected. And sometimes, it was nothing more than a hug. No reason. No explanation. Just a moment where the world softened around them. Ethan began to open up, slowly revealing pieces of himself he had long buried. A childhood shaped by expectations. A life built on control. Trust that had once been broken so deeply, he chose never to offer it again. People stay, Lily said gently one night, her voice steady. Not everyone leaves. They do, Ethan replied quietly. Eventually. Only if you give them a reason to. Her words lingered. For the first time Ethan didn't argue. Because somewhere along the way, without permission or warning, Lily Carter had become something he never planned for. A place where his walls no longer felt necessary. And though neither of them said it out loud, they were no longer just crossing paths. They were beginning to belong in each other's world. Some lines aren't drawn with rules, they're drawn with fear. And the closer Ethan Cole and Lily Carter became, the more visible that line grew. It started with whispers. Soft at first. Easy to ignore. Staff members exchanging glances. Conversations that paused when Lily entered a room. A shift in the air that made everything feel watched. Lily noticed. Of course she did. She had spent her whole life reading rooms, understanding what wasn't said just as much as what was. And now the unspoken truth followed her everywhere. She didn't belong where she was standing. Not beside him. That realization sat heavy in her chest as she folded linens one afternoon, her movements slower than usual. You're distracted. Ethan's voice came from behind her, calm but observant. She didn't turn immediately. I'm working, sir. That's not what I said. Lily exhaled softly before facing him. People are talking. They always do. This is different. A pause settled between them. Ethan stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Does it bother you? Yes. The honesty surprised even her. It should, she added quietly. There are boundaries, and we've crossed them. Ethan's gaze didn't waver. Have we? Lily hesitated. Because the truth wasn't simple. There had been no inappropriate actions. No broken rules in the way others might assume. But something deeper had formed, something harder to explain and even harder to control. It's not about what we've done, she said. It's about what this looks like. And what does it look like? Like something that can't last. The words landed heavier than she intended. For a moment Ethan said nothing. Then, slowly he reached for her, not urgently, not impulsively, but with quiet certainty. His arms wrapped around her, pulling her into a familiar, steady embrace. Lily closed her eyes. This was the problem. Because it felt right. Too right. I don't care what it looks like, Ethan murmured. But I do, she whispered back. And in that moment they both understood the truth neither wanted to face. Some connections feel like home. Even when the world insists they don't belong. Power always demands a price. And this time, it asked for something Ethan Cole wasn't sure he could afford to lose. The meeting was set late in the evening, long after the mansion had fallen into its usual quiet. Lily had finished her duties, but something about the atmosphere felt off, tense, like a storm waiting to break. She kept her distance, but she couldn't ignore it. Inside the study, Ethan sat across from Victor Hale, a man known not just for his wealth, but for the influence he held over industries, governments, and people. "I'll be direct," Victor said smoothly, folding his hands. "Merge our companies. Strengthen your position. And in return, you marry my daughter." Ethan's expression didn't change. "No." Victor smiled faintly. "Then you lose everything you've built. Contracts disappear. Investors pull out. Your empire collapses, quietly but completely." Silence followed. Heavy. Calculated. Ethan leaned back slightly, his gaze cold but thoughtful. "You're asking for control, not partnership. I'm offering survival." The conversation ended without agreement, but the damage had already been done, because for the first time in years, Ethan was cornered. And Lily was the only weakness Victor Hale needed. It didn't take long for the shift to reach her. The next morning Ethan was different. Distant. Colder than before. "From now on," he said without looking at her, "you'll limit your duties to the East Wing. No unnecessary interaction." Lily blinked, caught off guard. "Did I do something wrong?" "No." "Then why?" "Because I said so." His tone left no room for questions. No warmth. No familiarity. Nothing. The same man who once stood close enough for her to hear his heartbeat now felt miles away. And Lily understood. This was his way of ending things. Of correcting a mistake. So she didn't argue. Didn't fight. Didn't stay. By nightfall her things were packed. She paused only once, at the front door where everything had once begun. For a second she wondered if he would stop her. If he would say something, anything. But he didn't come. Didn't call out. Didn't move. So Lily Carter walked away. And inside the mansion, Ethan Cole stood alone in the silence he had chosen. Knowing it was the only way to protect her. Even if it meant losing the only person who ever made him feel human. Sometimes the truth doesn't come with an explanation. Only a realization that changes everything you thought you understood. Weeks passed. For Lily Carter, time no longer felt the same. The quiet life she returned to was simple, familiar, but empty in ways she couldn't explain. She told herself she had done the right thing. That leaving was necessary. But some absences don't fade. They echo. One afternoon a letter arrived. No name on the front. No return address. Just hers. Curiosity pulled her to open it, and what she found inside made her breath catch. Documents. Carefully arranged. Official. Real. A fully paid tuition to a university she once dreamed of attending. A modest home, already purchased, legally transferred into her name. And a bank statement. Secured funds that could support her for years. Lily's hands trembled slightly as she flipped through the pages, her mind struggling to keep up with what her eyes were seeing. It didn't make sense. Until it did. Ethan. There was no signature. No message. But she knew. Tears filled her eyes, not from confusion anymore but from the weight of what it meant. Every moment he had pushed her away, every cold word, every distance he created, it hadn't been rejection. It had been protection. Meanwhile, across the city, Ethan Cole was making a decision of his own. The boardroom was silent as he stood before men who had once followed him without question. "The deal is off," he said. One of them leaned forward sharply. "You understand what that means, don't you? Victor Hale will destroy everything." Ethan's expression remained calm. "Then I'll rebuild." "You're risking your entire empire? For what?" For a moment he didn't answer. Because the truth wasn't something they would understand. It's already decided. And just like that, the man who once chose control above all else walked away from power, without hesitation. For the first time in his life, Ethan Cole wasn't protecting his empire. He was choosing his heart. And Lily Carter was the reason why. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes, it arrives quietly, like a whisper, a breath, a heartbeat you never knew was missing. Lily Carter had returned to the mansion, drawn by something she couldn't name, something that told her Ethan Cole needed her. Perhaps it was intuition. Perhaps it was the letters, the hidden gestures, the proof that he had never stopped caring. The front door opened and there he stood. Same sharp suit, same commanding presence, but softer somehow. Vulnerable in ways she had never allowed herself to see. "Lily," he said, voice low. Not commanding. Not distant. Just hers. She stepped forward cautiously. I didn't expect." "You did the right thing," Ethan interrupted gently. "You always do." He took a step closer. And then another until the space between them vanished. "I need to say this clearly," he whispered, holding her hands firmly in his. "That night when I said what I said, I didn't mean what you thought. I didn't want to frighten you. I wanted to show you that you matter. That you're not invisible. That I. He stopped, eyes locking with hers. I love you, Lily. Not as an employee. Not as someone to protect. As the person I want beside me always. Lily's breath caught. A tear slipped, but she smiled through it. Ethan. I've never stopped caring either. You've always been my safe place. And then, finally, the barrier that had always stood between them fell away. No words were needed. Only a hug. A long, steady embrace that spoke of promises kept, fears overcome, and hearts finally aligned. They held each other as the night wrapped around the mansion, silent and complete. For Ethan Cole and Lily Carter, this was more than a moment. More than a fleeting connection. It was forever. And as the stars glimmered outside, the mansion felt warmer, brighter, filled with the certainty of two souls who had finally found home in each other.